Hello, hello. Welcome back to Become a Calm Mama. I'm your host. I'm Darlene Childress. I am a life and parenting coach. And on today's podcast episode, I've titled this Parenting 101, the basics. This happens to be episode 101. And so I thought it would be kind of fun to talk about the basics and kind of orient us into some foundational principles, especially as we kick off 2024 and, think about this next year and what we're going to focus on as parents. I wanted to just get it down to what are the basic essential needs of humans? That's what I want to talk about today. So some of the work that I'm bringing up is from Gabor Mate's book, The Myth of Normal. I've read this over the last couple of months, and the book has, I think I've joked, I'm like, this is the best parenting book I've ever read. And it's not a parenting book. It's a book about humans and how they develop and the right environments that people need in order to thrive. And then it kind of goes through, it's a large book, it's like 500 pages, but then it goes through all of the different ways that our society is built up to prevent that really strong emotional well-being, that foundation of true health. So I found this book so powerful, and I want to talk about one aspect that Gabor brings up in his book and really kind of articulate these two essential needs of humans. So let's get right into it, yeah? So the two essential needs of humans are attachment and authenticity. So I'm going to define those, and then we're going to talk about the tension that happens between the two, how that shows up in parenting, and then how we can heal that tension. Does that sound great? All right, so let's get into it. So what is attachment? Attachment is like a human drive. We all have it at all stages of our lives where we are driven for physical and emotional closeness. It's primal. It's wired into our nervous system. It's wired into our biology that we are safer when we are together. We are safer as a species when we're a social species. We are safer when we are in a community. Now, this is especially true with children, right? Because as our species, our children come into the world. They're the most dependent species, the most dependent young on their caregiver, and they are immature for a very long period of time. And so the attachment with their caregiver is vital in order for them to survive. And so the human body, the human brain, the human self is primed to seek attachment and to do anything it can to get that attachment, because the attachment means safety, especially when they're young. So we have this very primal need to feel safe with our caregiver. That means our physical safety, that our, biological needs are met, that we can stay warm, that we can be fed, that we can, have, what else is there, right? Like the need for our bodies to be cared for, and then also our emotions. So we have both of those needs, and it's really important for all of us that we feel connected. And so when you're really little, you're seeking being cared for when you're young, and you're doing anything you can to make sure that you keep that attachment. And then as you get older, you can also find attachment by caregiving. And we've talked about it a little bit on the podcast, how sometimes it can get mixed up. Like my identity is in my caregiving, and that's how I feel safe. But then what happens if I don't give care and it gets kind of messy? That's like a codependency kind of drawback. But whatever that tendency is in caregiving or receiving care, it really is this seeking of attachment, which ultimately means safety. So if I'm attached, I feel safe. So it's this primal need. So that one seems probably pretty obvious. And you're like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. Of course, they're vulnerable. The children are vulnerable. But then the second primal need is authenticity. And so what's authenticity means? It means the the who you are inside, right? Being able to be yourself and know yourself and express yourself and shape your own life. So it's funny because we have this highly social experience of being in a community and needing have that safety and that attachment. And then we also have this very individualized drive to express ourselves and to know ourselves and to be our own individual person. So that's like the root of intuition, actually, is, the authenticity is kind of being able to know my gut feeling, like what's going on, and listening to that cue and trusting it and knowing myself and knowing what I'm capable of and believing in myself. Authenticity is sort of the root of my self-esteem, of my self-concept, of who I am. And as a human, we want to be able to be safe in our relationships and also be able to express who we are and still feel safe. So we're craving this unconditional attention and unconditional, like, agenda-free acceptance. And we don't want our self, our sense of self, our authentic self, to threaten our attachment. But that is what happens a lot of times in childhood, is there is a tension because sometimes my authentic expression of myself, my thoughts, my feelings, how those thoughts and feelings show up in behavior, the person who is supposed to be my caregiver and take care of me may say, no, I am not going to allow you to behave that way or to think that way or feel that way or show that emotion. And when you do that, I am going to take away your sense of safety. I'm going to detach from you until you perform or show up the way I want you to. So if the child feels that they have to do something different in order to be acceptable, or because they are looking for safety, if the attachment feels threatened in any way, the child will shut down their authentic self. They will try to anyway. The problem is that if you try to shut down emotions and you try to shut down yourself, you don't go anywhere. You still are in there and you're still working to be expressed at all times. And so it's not actually possible to shut down your authentic self, but you can try. You can try to squash who you are in order to feel safe and be accepted. So what does that look like in parenting? Not the original way of timeout, but the way that timeout has been used. It's starting to get better now. It's starting to go back to the original way, but originally, a timeout was intended to be like, hey, it seems like, maybe you're having some struggle and you need to take a little time out to calm yourself, right? But that's an okay way to use timeout, to see it as like your nervous system is in overdrive, you're dysregulated, you're struggling. Let me come alongside of you. Let me pull you out of this situation. Let's give you some support and get you back to a better baseline, and then come join us. And that can be self-regulation or co-regulation. But what happened with timeout is it became punitive, and it became, you aren't acceptable. Your behavior isn't acceptable. You cannot be here with us. You cannot be in this situation with us until you can act right. And so attachment became conditional on behavior. So he'd say, okay, you're 2 years old, go sit in the corner for 2 minutes, calm yourself, and come back when you're ready to be like good. And the truth is that's not what's happening, is that the child just has an authentic expression of themselves and they don't want attachment to be threatened. They're not testing it. They might be testing attachment, but it shouldn't be a condition. Attachment should never be a condition. But we've used that timeout philosophy as a condition for attachment. Instead of guiding the child through like the processes that you learn on this podcast and saying like, hey, you seem to be struggling, this behavior is out of bounds. Like, what's happening? Or this behavior doesn't work. I'm going to put a boundary here, and then I'm going to help you regulate your emotions in this way that is working. So we're always validating the emotion. Now I'm getting into strategies, but I wanted you to see the difference a little bit between, sometimes people are calling it like a timeout versus a time in. The other way that we see this in parenting is, spankings, right? Like, your behavior is bad. I'm going to hurt your body in order to teach you how to behave. And again, that is the behavior is, I say it all the time, is a feelings drive behavior. Behavior is an expression of unmet need or emotions. And when you use a punitive, a pain, like literally hurt your body when you are misbehaving, you are telling the child you are not safe when you misbehave. Attachment is threatened. So that's why, even in 2018, the American Academy of Pediatrics said, hey, guess what? Spanking is actually damaging. It doesn't do what you want it to do. It hurts your children long term. It's not good for emotional health. And, okay, I'm going to say this a couple times, but like, if you're doing these strategies, I don't want you to start to freak out and be like, oh my God, I'm the worst mom. I'm so terrible. I've ruined my kids. No, that's not going to help. Okay. If you can be a little neutral about yourself right now and just be listening to this podcast episode and be thinking, okay, I do those things because I don't know what to do with misbehavior. I don't know how to handle it. I'm trying my best. Yes, of course, you're not intending to hurt your children. I know that. You can trust yourself. You just don't have the tools and skills. That's why you listen to this podcast. That's why you sign up for programs. You read parenting books, right? You do these things because you're like, I want to do it different. I don't know how. That's why my programs are really focused on tools, like scripts, tools, actual step-by-steps, because I do believe none of us know what we're doing, right? Okay, so we have timeouts, we have spankings, we have just ignoring our kids. So this is like negative reinforcement, positive reinforcement, kind of this idea of I will listen to you, I will pay attention to you, I will only look at you when you're doing good, when you're behaving the way I want you to behave. And then if you're not, I'm going to detach. So again, attachment, detachment. Our kids are looking for, am I safe in this relationship? Can I rely on the adults around me? Is my attachment ever threatened? And, you can threaten attachment and get control of your kids and manipulate them. The problem is that in that process, they are developing a low self-concept. They are squashing parts of their identity, parts of themselves. They're learning to be performative. So when we are in these strategies of, making our connection, our warmth as conditional. Now I have boundaries, I teach boundaries in my workshops and things like that. And I say listen, I'm happy to help you as long as you're speaking kindly. That is not necessarily I'm going to reject you until you're nice to me. It's a little bit more about my own personal self-respect. Like, you're struggling and I want to support you and your feelings are valid. But it's hard for me to support you when you are screaming, I hate you. So why don't you calm your body and then let's try again. And we'll I'm right here. So we're staying in that attached space. We're not making our attachment, our love conditional, but we can set boundaries. I'm going to talk more about that next episode. So when we are, doing timeouts, spankings, connection, keeping our connection conditional, ignoring our kids, it ends up creating a child who is trying to figure out how to get their needs met through behavior. And so they may then, start people pleasing. I'm sorry, mommy. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to, please, are you mad at me? Please don't hurt me. Please don't hurt me. Like they kind of act this way, and that's just insecurity, right? And if they show up that way, you say, listen, I love you. Everything is fine. You're safe. I'm not going anywhere, right? You re-anchor back into attachment, and then you validate, it's okay. It's okay that you behave that way. Your feelings make sense. We need to work on this behavior. But we're not going to use the attachment as a way to control our children's behavior. We're going to, work at reassuring our children that that the attachment, the safety, the unconditional love that I have for them, it's never in question. So when we have our kids and they are expressing their feelings through behavior, and we're using strategies to control that behavior, and we're squashing authenticity in order to control them, or we're threatening attachment in order to control them and change their behavior, it does have an effect. It turns into basically not feeling like I'm okay at my core, that the people in my life who, like, the love that people have and the willingness that they have to care for me is conditional based on how I behave. When you play that out into adulthood, it can look like, even in elementary school, it can look like perfectionism, right? Not feeling safe enough to fail. It can look like focusing on the way you look a lot, being really, that's like the root of eating disorders and things like that. And like, low self-esteem and worried about how you look and how how people think of you. It can also turn into like people pleasing, but also almost over charming, right? Because it's all about performance. It's all about, can I get the people in my life to love and accept me? What can I do to make that happen? If you don't believe it's unconditional in your childhood, it's hard for you to believe it's going to be unconditional outside of if your mom and dad make it conditional. What about people who don't even care about you? It creates an insecurity, a core insecurity wound. And that's what we're trying to avoid. It can be, I got to attain wealth. I've got to attain power. I can't show this anger. I have to suppress my emotion. Otherwise, I will be rejected. I will be abandoned. I will be neglected. I will be hurt, right? What we want our kids is to go through life. And of course, when they're young, they're testing, they're trying to figure out this. And so your job as a parent is to reassure them. But we want them to get through, these early elementary school, preschool and elementary and middle school, and get through life and then show up on the threshold of adulthood as a person who feels securely attached in their relationships with their parent, that the love is not conditional, that the safety, the security, the net underneath their life is not going anywhere, so that they can take big risks and they can, work for their dreams and overcome obstacles, all of those things you want for your kids. And that so at their core, they feel safe, and at their core, they feel lovable. They feel worthy, that they don't think they have to perform or show up in any particular way in order to get people to like them, right? So when we have a childhood that is in this conditional, where authenticity has to be squashed in order to receive attachment, or attachment feels untenuous, then we create these strategies, and they almost become like they're part of our personality. They get these strategies in childhood can get hardwired into our nervous system, and then they just show up as this is how we are. But the problem is that the strategies can stop working, right? We can achieve great success, and it's never enough. Or we finally look the way we think we should look, and we still don't love ourselves. Or we have, a huge following of thousands of people or whatever. We're a big celebrity, and you see this, and then the person still struggles with drug addiction or suicidal tendencies and things like this. So the truth is that these strategies that we put into place as kids to, get people to love us so that we can feel loved and safe, they eventually stop working. And also can show up in our bodies, like we get sick, we don't feel well, all of it. And so when you get to that place in your life where you're like, well, is this it? Like, what, was this all there is? I kind of talked about this on last week's episode about my own, healing journey from my own experiences of childhood trauma and how much I've had to really self-love, become the person that feels safe inside and loves myself. And that's the foundation of it, right? Like I can just decide I'm worthy exactly as I am. And it is not easy. Even saying it, I feel silly. But what all of our deepest desires, right, is that we want to be acknowledged and loved and accepted. We don't want our acceptance and our lovableness, our worthiness to be based on performance or what other people think of us. And so, of course, there's lots of strategies in my programs and self-help world to heal your inner child and heal yourself and all of those things. There's lots of episodes even in the podcast that have talked about this. What I'm talking about today is really about what kind of like parenting you want to be doing in order to prevent your child growing up and then having to heal from their childhood. Right? That's what so many of you say, like, I just don't want to fuck my kids up. I hear you. Like, I get it. And you don't know quite, like, am I doing it right? Am I not? What's happening? Like, it's scary. And so when you're parenting your kids, I want you to be thinking of how can you strengthen their feeling of attachment, their feeling of safety, and their authentic self. So let me give you some tips, some strategies. I'll give you some more next week. But when your child is feeling insecure, they're maybe, mommy, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean it, and don't be mad at me, and they're acting that way, or you get upset for a second, and you're like, that's enough, stop it, right? You show up in a reactive state, or you have to give them a consequence, like, you know what, I did say that if you that you could come with us to, the grocery store as long as you had tidied up and you didn't tidy up, so you're not coming, then, they get really upset and they might be worried that you don't love them. This is especially true with littler ones, like ages 3 to 6. And they really need to be reassured. Listen, you're safe. You're okay. I'm not mad at you. This is just part of learning. This is just part of growing. I unconditionally love and welcome you and want you exactly as you are. You can make mistakes in this family. It's not a problem. We want to communicate to our kids. Listen, you can trust me. I'm the grown-up. I can handle things. I'm strong. I've got this. That's why we don't really want to like dump a lot of like, oh my God, you kids are driving me crazy. I can't handle this. Like, we don't really want to bring a lot of that energy to our parenting because it makes our kids feel like, there's no grown-ups around. I'm not safe. And then they might develop strategies to make themselves feel safe. And some of those strategies might be healthy in the short term, but not healthy in the long term. So we kind of want to have this internalized, like leadership inside of us. Like, I've got it. You're in good hands. I'm the adult. You're safe. No matter what happens, no matter how you act, no matter what goes on in the world, I've got you. You're okay. I can handle it. Right? So we want to hold that. We want to let them know that that's for attachment, and then for authenticity, being able to say, I unconditionally love, welcome, and want you. Like, getting used to communicating it. No matter how you feel, no matter how you act, no matter how you think, honey, nothing you can do can threaten my love for you. I will always have your back. Practice saying it out loud. You want to communicate to your child that they don't have to do anything or be different to win love or to win security. That nothing they do can ever threaten the relationship you have. You're not going anywhere. Your love is not going anywhere. Your care is not going anywhere. I think of it sometimes like unconditional love is easy. Unconditional acceptance is hard. So it's like, how can you communicate? I unconditionally accept you. And the way we do that in my programs is we validate emotion. We say your feelings make sense. Your behavior isn't working. So you're not giving in. It's not permissive parenting. But we are saying you have permission to have these feelings. You have permission to express these emotions. The way you're doing it right now by hitting, kicking, punching, doing all these behaviors, spitting, yelling, mommy, I hate you, all this, that is not the healthiest way to express these emotions. There are better ways, and I'm going to teach you how. But the feeling makes sense. Your feeling is valid. And we're going to make it safe for our kids to be vulnerable. And I want you to remember that their behavior is their expression of their emotion. So we're validating your emotion makes sense. Your behavior needs work. Okay? Because the behavior is a strategy. So when you do these things, right, you can end up falling into the permissive parenting trap. And there's a lot in parenting right now of a little bit of a backlash about compassionate parenting. And I want you to know, like, if you're following along with my program and you're, implementing limits and you're learning like the way that I talk about consequences, we're not going to permissive parenting you're not at risk of that if you follow along with what I teach you, because I do have connection on one side and correction on the other. So we're validating the emotion. We're allowing for internalized security. We're letting our kids know you're safe. Your feelings matter. Your feelings are valid. And your behavior is my job to help you figure out better ways to communicate your feelings, better ways to cope. You don't have to, people please or be aggressive or any of these other strategies. And so so those are the things I want you to be doing, is just really like communicating you're safe, communicating you can't threaten this relationship. There's nothing you can do to make me love or accept you less. I'm not going anywhere. I've got your back. Practice saying those things. And then validating that emotion. Feelings make sense. Behavior needs work. I've just made that up, but I kind of like it. Like, your behavior needs work. It's like, I don't know, kind of is a little bit hopeful for me to think about it that way. It's like, yeah. No, of course you're behaving that way, but like, let's work on it. Like a little bit more loose about it, a little less tight, a little bit less fear, a little less anxious, right? Just like, yeah, I know that's how you're showing up right now, but I'm not worried. You're going to learn. You're little, you're growing. Even with my 20-year-old, I'm like, oh, he's not quite 20. He's 19. But I'm like, no, bud, no, you've got plenty of time. Like, this is fine. No problem. We're going to figure it out. Like, what's going on? Why are you acting this way? Okay, great. Your feelings are totally valid. They all make sense. All these strategies make sense. Let's do new strategies. So much more loving and welcoming and kind. Now, if you're learning this type of parenting and you didn't come from a family where attachment was secure and authenticity was secure, you probably feel a little bit out of like your depth, right? You're not sure what to do. It's because you're in the process of breaking toxic parenting cycles. You're in the process of recovering your own authenticity. You're in the process of developing internalized security. And that is beautiful. Beautiful. It is amazing. Look at you. You're like, reparenting yourself. You're breaking cycles. It's incredible. But you probably need support. You probably need some modeling. You need some guidance. So I strongly recommend that you do sign up for my programs. The Emotionally Healthy Kids class starts January 18th. It's a 6-week program. I teach you how to calm yourself, how to emotionally coach your kids, validating their emotions, how to set boundaries. We call that limit set. And then how to follow through with consequences that aren't painful. I go through the class in the 6 weeks. Like we cover the basics, the foundations. And then you have 4 months to work with me in the Calm Mama Club. That's my membership. And you get like a taste of that. You get to be in there for 4 months and you get to book private sessions with me every week, 15 minutes. We have group chats, there's community, there's an online portal, there's email support, there's lots and lots of support. So you're in with me for 6 weeks and then we stick together for a couple months to just let it all settle. And then you can just stay in the club. Like your membership ends and then I ask you if you want to stay. And if you love it, you stay. It's $500 for the year. So the class is $500. It includes the 6-week course and the 4 months in the club. And there's a payment plan if you need it. And I'm here for you. And you get to learn these tools because that's the thing I'm really focused on is like actual strategies, actual scripts, actual process. And then you can ask me questions in those sessions, either in the group or in the privates where you're like, okay, this is my problem. Let's solve it. And then we solve it. It's beautiful. I love it. I love the program so much. I love every mama and dad that comes through and the relationships that are built within the program. It's really incredible. So if you're into developing and raising emotionally healthy kids, keep listening to the podcast. This week, your takeaway are how can I strengthen attachment here? How can I strengthen security? And then how can I strengthen authenticity? So those are your takeaways. And but if you're just loving it and you're like, yeah, no, I love everything about everything you teach, like let's get together. Let's, join one of my programs. Let's build this relationship and grow your family. It's incredible. I love it. I love it, love it, love it. Okay, so if you're listening to this as the podcast comes out, Happy New Year. Parenting 101, the basics. We did it. Authenticity, attachment, strengthen those, and push those into the new year. People love words of the year. Maybe that's what you want to pick. Maybe you want to pick authenticity. Maybe you want to pick attachment. My word for the year is internalized security. It's basically attachment within myself. That's what I'm working on in 2024. I'm healing some of that insecure attachment. So that's what I'm about. And if you want to be about that, that's cool. It's great. So have a great week. Happy New Year. And I will catch you next week. Hey mama, if you enjoyed this podcast episode, I want to encourage you to do 2 things. The first is go to my website, calmmamacoaching.com, and get a copy of the Stop Yelling cheat sheet. You'll get a step-by-step breakdown of the most important tool I teach, which is the pause break. And you'll also get 40 ideas to reset your body and balance your nervous system so you don't have to yell at your kids. You can get a copy of that, again, at my website, calmmamacoaching.com/stop yelling. The other thing I'd love for you to do is go to Apple Podcasts and rate and review this podcast so that other moms can discover empowering and helpful, practical parenting strategies, just like you did today. Thanks so much for listening to the podcast. It means a lot to be in your ear every week and to support you on your parenting journey.